I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
On July 20th, 1969, mankind accomplished a truly historic feat. And a decade shaped by the goal of safely setting a man on the moon came to fruition. Thousands of people worked day and night on the program, but without the help of 3 University of Arizona professors, the mission may not have been nearly as successful.
The moon was an elegant tool for creativity, I guess that's the best way to explain it. A new surface, processes that we hadn't seen or weren't familiar with gave rise to things we didn't understand, so that it was a time when geologists could let their creative imaginations run free in terms of interpreting what we were seeing on the moon.
An assistant professor of geosciences at the UA during the space race, Spencer Titley studied mining and ore geology, but was invited by Gene Shoemaker to teach astronauts field geology, mapping, and observational formats, all essential for landing.
The notion that we could map the moon was intriguing to me, and so I agreed with Gene I'd come to work for them on a part-time basis. So that is how I got into it, and it carried through the evolution of the mapping program with the U.S. Geological Survey to the point where it ultimately ended up in astronaut training. And they were interested, and the teaching part of it was a challenge. There were a lot of interesting concepts at the time. The whole picture of volcanic activity versus impact as a means of crater formation surfaced and became interesting, and much of the work that we did in the field was focused on interpreting different kinds of characteristics in different kinds of craters to aid as a basis for understanding how craters on the moon formed.
He was more interested in what the photographs were showing of the geology, what might have caused the patterns of the throw-out from the craters and so on, whereas we were more interested in the overall picture. Here we are. Way back in 1960, very little was known about the moon. The maps that were available were really not very good at all. And the last reasonably decent map was put out in 1935, and that wasn't suitable for anything that was going to go to the moon.
Starting with the Ranger and Surveyor missions, Ewen Whitaker was responsible for identifying landing sites for unmanned missions. By utilizing land and space-based observations and photographs, he quickly set about piecing together maps and charts accurate enough for eventual manned landings, including Apollo 12.
Because NASA was formed in about 1958-59, and what happened then was that, we're going to be sending possibly spacecraft to the moon, maybe people to the moon. What we've got to have are good pictures of the moon, we've got to have good maps of the moon with positions and quite small detail. We were working on our Atlas of the Moon pictures, the best pictures of the moon we could get. The other job that was needed was accurate coordinates on the map. You've got to know your latitudes and longitudes. Up to that time, everything had been made in X and Y, which is not convenient for navigating the moon or trying to land things on the moon.
We did the Consolidated Lunar Atlas, which was they used extensively for their planning, which was done here at the university, in fact, on Mount Lemmon. So I was on Apollo 8, 10, and 11, okay? And also we briefed the astronauts on other missions, particularly Apollo 16.
After helping to create the Consolidated Lunar Atlas, Bob Strom and Ewen Whitaker became members of the Lunar Operations Work Group, which was given an important task after the landing of Apollo 11.
We were at the Manned Spacecraft Center when it landed on that day. And with the pictures they took, we were to try to determine a precise location of their spacecraft. That was for both safety reasons and also for science reasons. You know, they needed to know this information fast, and believe me, it was not easy. It was very difficult, as a matter of fact. But the process was we looked at the television pictures they took. You know, we had snapshots and they were shown on a video. And from that, we were trying to correlate large boulders in the distance with things we could see in orbit. The resolution of the orbiter was very good. I mean, you could see boulders, for instance, on those pictures. That was, I mean, one of our jobs. The other one, of course, is to analyze the data, you know, that they sent back from orbit. So when they returned and developed the images they had, our task was to study those for scientific reasons, you know, learn about the geology and history of the moon.
I have to admit that although I didn't spend that much time with them, that my time with the astronauts, brief as it was very inspiring. These were nice people, you know. They talked and they had jokes. They were nice people.
The whole thing was very exciting. I mean, you have to understand, of course, we've been prepping the astronauts and studying the moon for some time anyway, and it took a while for it to sink in because we were so darn busy.
Yeah, we knew it was kind of, we're kind of in the news, but that was in the background. We thought, oh, look at all this lovely science we're getting, and we're more concentrating on providing the good pictures, the good maps, the accurate maps for whatever might come in the future.
And then the emotions came a little later. You know, I said, my gosh, we've just witnessed the first human to ever leave the Earth and land on another body, the solar system. I mean, think about it. And now when I look back on it, I don't know how we did it, because the technology in those days was primitive compared to what we have today, and yet we did it. My God, we did it.